Hi, everyone. My name is Heather Monat, and I am a school-based speech-language pathologist. I'm so excited to share with you some basics regarding the formation of speech sounds, ways to enhance language development in children, and finally, some tips for the classroom. The first thing I'd like to share with you is a new way to think about sound production. When teaching students letters and sounds, it can be really helpful to talk about where the sound is produced. Is it in the front of your mouth? Is it in the back? Which articulators do you use to produce the sound? Do you use your tongue or your teeth? Do you use your lips? For instance, with the TH sound, we're putting our tongue on our teeth. For our P sound, we're just using our lips. So just kind of think about some of those as you're teaching them to students. Also make note of whether or not your voice is turned on or turned off for the sound. Making the connection of turning your voice off for a sound like s, but then turning it on for a z. It's essentially the same sound. The only difference is whether or not your voice is turned on or off for it. So really making that connection can be helpful for some students. You could even visually do this by pretending like you have a little key and turning your voice on with it, zzz, and then turning it off. Zzz. You could do the same thing for a p or a b sound, t and d, k and g, and just pretend to use that little key, turning your voice on and off and talking about how similar those sounds are, except for the voice. And even having students take their hand and put it on their throat and just feel it. Does it feel like it's buzzing? Can you feel that? That can be really helpful for kids too. You can also talk about whether or not sounds are long sounds or short sounds. They might be really long and be held out like a long S sound, or they might be short, quick pops of air like a p or a t. Helping students become more aware of the different sounds and how they're made while connecting it to the letters and the phonological awareness activities can really spark some great pre-reading skills and help them in their literacy development. The second area I feel is important as a speech language pathologist is to keep in mind the end goal, which is comprehension. While teaching a student the mechanics of reading is very important, keep in mind that the overall goal is for them to understand what it is they read. It's important to not only think about teaching skills like phonological awareness and the letter sound correspondence, but remember to teach comprehension too. Some ways that we can enhance our students' language skills include reading to them, pointing out what you notice is happening in the pictures of a story as you go, and asking them questions as you're reading the story too. You may need to give them a few options for answers and just see how they do. You can also expand on what they say about the stories. If a student tells you a short little basic answer to a question, model an answer with more details or ask follow-up questions and point to the pictures as a visual cue if they need it. It's also helpful to introduce and talk about new words that they may see in the story before reading the story to them. Then have them listen to the word as you read it, and when the word pops up in the book, talk about it. So that's a great way to just enhance their overall vocabulary. Is just talking about those words first, and then drawing their attention to it during the book. Finally, I'd like to give you some tips and suggestions that might be helpful in the classroom. First, using a mirror. When talking about how sounds are made, let the students spend some time looking into a mirror while they produce the sounds. Model how the sounds are made and point out where your teeth are at, your tongue, your lips, where those are all positioned. Then have the students practice and notice in their own mouths how they're making the sound too. Also, use some visual cues such as visual phonics. Any sort of visual will help students make connections faster. Even something just as simple as pointing to your mouth while making a sound will help draw the students' attention to how you're making the sound. Another visual that's sometimes helpful, especially for S-blends, is running your fingers up your arm for that long sound and then pointing to your mouth for the next sound. So like for the word stop, it might look like stop. So they can practice getting that long sound and then the short sound. Anything visual is super helpful for kids. Another tip is just to include sounds that you're teaching in activities that you do throughout the entire day. So we don't want to just teach that sound in isolation one little part of the day, but kind of incorporate throughout the day. Just make sure you point it out in different activities that you're doing. You could have the kids practice identifying different sounds in a game. So maybe you could tell them, okay, stand up if you hear a k sound and sit if you hear a s sound. And then they're active, they're practicing that and this, and can they identify the difference? Can they hear it? Can they make the difference? And just doing a little activity with that. You can also use those same sounds that you're teaching in other phonological awareness activities like rhyming, segmenting, or blending with words that have that sound in order to just reinforce the lesson throughout the day. My last tip, and maybe the most important, is to connect with your speech language pathologist for more great ideas. We have a passion for speech and language and would love to help problem solve, answer questions, give ideas, and share our knowledge to help students be successful in the classroom. I hope this information is helpful to you in your work. Remember to think about the formation of speech sounds when talking about letters and enhancing language skills to support the end goal of comprehension. And please, please collaborate with your SLP to get more great ideas. I hope this information will help you in your incredible work with kids. Thank you for all that you do.